Guys, X on targets. 15 feet. Super excited to get this in my hands. This is one of those guns that is really hard to find in store. The trigger pull weight on this, 5.5 to 7.5 pounds. That's pretty broad. Hey everybody, welcome to the Concealed Carry channel. I'm Grant McLean. We got an awesome review, unboxing, tabletop review, the whole gamut today, as we usually do, on the FN 509C. Super excited to get this in my hands. This is one of those guns that is really hard to find in store. I found that majority of people are ordering these online, having them shipped to their FFLs and just picking them up right away. And I can't necessarily blame them, because there's a lot of features and benefits to this gun that I think that I would feel, doing research, I would feel comfortable just clicking order and getting the gun to me without having to actually pick it up. There are a few things, though, I will tell you in the review here, of things that I didn't necessarily care for. So we'll go over that fun stuff. But anyways, before we jump into the review, I would love for you guys to go ahead and hit that thumbs up. If you support people being able to defend themselves with a firearm, hit that thumbs up. You support the gun community. And hit that subscribe if you haven't already. That way you can get notified when we do have new reviews come out. And share the channel with your friends, family, and other gun enthusiasts. I want to say thank you so much to our friends that support the channel on our Patreon. If you want to be a Patreon supporter, go into the comments. It's the link at the top. You can click on there and support the channel, and we greatly appreciate. As you know, guns cost money, range time costs money, ammo definitely costs a lot of money right now. And it helps us make this more of a full-time thing that we can do for you guys. And of course, you'll have a chance to get exclusive content, what we call Beyond the Black Shirt, things that we don't feature here on the Concealed Carry channel, like rifles and things like that. You ready? And then also you can do a entry for our drawings, and they are some awesome prizes that we have lined up for you guys. So check out our Patreon. I mean, those of you who are Patreon supporters watching this, again, thank you so much for your support. The other folks, Northwest Armory, they have been awesome to us, making sure that I can get access to guns, and that way I can go down to the range and do all the tabletop reviews, help you make a well-educated decision. Definitely visit nwarmory.com if you want to order this gun or a gun like this, have it shipped to your local FFL. If you do go into the store, tell them that Grant over the Concealed Carry channel sent you in, and they're going to take very good care of you. And of course, say hi to Khaki, because he's such a good doggy. Last but not least, definitely X-Hunt Targets. X-Hunt Targets has been awesome to work with. These folks have been just amazing. You know, their targets are top-notch. I love them very much, especially during the fall and winter time here in the Northwest, being that they're weatherproof and they're high-vis. I can't say anything negative about them. But go to xhunttargets.com after the review and order up some targets. I think you'll be super happy with them, and I'll show you those targets more when we do the range kind of footage here in a second. Let's go ahead and jump into the review of the FN 509C. Now, this is the MRD model, because there's several different 509C models. This is the MRD model that we have here. Let's go ahead and unbox. Alrighty. Got the FN 509 case. Inside the box, I'll just kind of go over the goodies. The MRD model is an optic-ready model, so you're going to have all these little goodies here that you'll need to put on your optic. So you have that, and then you have your manual. It's going to kind of go over the parts list in there. Here's your owner's manual there, and your lock. Perfect. That sums up what's left in the box, and here we are, the 509. 509C, baby. Let's unbag that. Ooh, yes. smooth slide. I like that. Let's start with, oh, there's a couple more things in the box here. You're going to have 2 magazines. So you'll have a 15 round, kind of like an extended mag. And then this is a flush fit, even though it does have a little pinky extension there. This is a 12 round. So you got a 12 round and 15 round. And you have an extra little backstrap piece there. As far as the specs go, let's run this baby down. So 509C MRD model. This is a 9mm compact size. It comes with the 2 mags, 12 round, 15 rounds, plus 1 in the chamber there. The barrel length on this is 3.7 inches. The length overall is 6.8 inches. The height is going to go between 4.8 and 5.2 depending on which magazine that you use. And the width is 1.35 inches. The weight on this bad boy is 1 pound 9.5 ounces empty without a mag. And the MSRP is $7.99. This will come in a different color as well, the FDE, which looks really nice as well. And it's, you know, like FN likes to do it, the slide and the frame, they don't match exactly, but that's kind of their gig, is like the 50 shades of FDE, you know, and I think it does look really good. So let's go over the range time. All right, what we have here is our usual 3, 5, 7, and 10 yards. If you haven't seen this before, essentially what we're doing is I grab the gun, and I put in a few practice rounds, kind of get the sights down a little bit, and then I throw this target out there at 3, 5, 7, and 10 yards, and I'm doing 5 shots in 2 seconds. That's our goal. So at 3 yards, we had a 2.1 inch group. Nice. 2 bullets went into that same hole there. 5 yards, we had a 1.8 inch group. 7 yards, 3.6. 10 yards, 4.3. So it did its usual thing. As the target goes out further, exponentially the groupings get larger. And this is just from taking the pistol, pushing it out. There's no bag rest or anything like that per se. It's just, yeah, a little bit of range time. Gives me a good idea of you know, what this gun is going to feel like for a new gun owner, and also doing a rapid fire pace if somebody was to be threatening your life and you need to pop off rounds quickly. What kind of groupings could you relatively expect? I think that the range was definitely a positive experience for me with this gun. This gun feels like a certain niche. It's like the person who wants the Glock 19 but also wants a 26 and doesn't want to buy both of them. You can definitely get this gun for less than you'd buy the both of those for. The person who also wants some more tactical, you know, attributes to it as well. This would be a great gun in that regard too. Or if, say, you're looking at a Glock 19 MOS and you were going to plan on putting the raised sights on there, you might want to consider this as well. And especially somebody who is left-handed wants a gun that's going to be ambidextrous right from the factory. Then you have the tactical model for somebody who wants to have a threaded barrel, a little bit longer barrel length, or run it with a suppressor. But then you also have the height and almost the overall profile of a Glock 19X or a Glock 45, which those are going to be 17 rounds. So, you know, take that into consideration if you're looking to buy this gun. Those are other guns that I would certainly consider as like a Glock 45 MOS. If you're going to end up running it with the extended mag already, I would say that, in my opinion, is a better choice, because then you're not going to have to worry about the bottom part of your hand catching on that magazine and holding it in if you need to do a reload. You don't have to do any of this funky stuff. Oh, and of course, the other one I would say consider is like the Zev OZ9 Hyper Comp. That's another one that has an optic plate that has essentially a compact slide with a full-size frame, or at least you can put the grip module onto it and make it a full-size frame if you wanted. But it definitely does fill kind of a niche in that, where, you know, you want to make it smaller and then also have it be larger, optic cuts, raised sights, and all that fun stuff. As far as the pistol goes, let's start it at the top here with the sights and work our way down. Now, on the MRD model, you're going to have the raised suppressor height sights or raised basically co-witnessing sights if you did decide to do an optic on this gun. The sights themselves, I like them. I like especially the flat face on the rear. So if you're going to do a pistol course and you're doing the one-hand reload and you need to take this and rack the gun off of a tabletop sill, something, some sort of edge, I think that this is going to work really well for that. I can definitely see these working well for co-witnessing. I prefer the 509C tactical sights better. Those are going to be Trijicon tritium night sights versus these. I like those better, but for some folks who are going to have a red dot and they don't want it to be too busy, because obviously if you're shooting in low light, now you got green dots and red dots, you got dots all over the damn place. I can definitely see how some people may not want those. And this is going to be for those folks. The other folks who do want to have the tritium ones, I would recommend to look at the 509T. As you can see here, they are dovetail. So if you wanted to swap those out, you definitely could. The regular 509C is not going to have raised sights. They're just going to be the low profile ones. On the slide here, we do have the optic cut. And as I showed earlier, we have all the little goodies for all the different types of optics you choose to go with. FN says this is a lower optic mount, but I don't see that actually being lower than other competitors to this. So let's take the Sig Sauer. Here's the AXG Scorpion. I don't really see that optic plate being any lower. What I see is maybe the illusion of it being lower because the sights are higher. Now that is definitely a bonus, because if I was using these lower profile sights with an optic, definitely I wouldn't count on those co-witnessing. And then here I have the X-Carry, and that doesn't look any lower per se. And I also looked at it with my Glock. Yeah, I don't see it being any lower per se. But being that the sights are higher, hey, who cares? I feel that the idea with it being lower is so it can co-witness with those sights, and the sights are definitely tall enough to do that. So that's my 2 cents on that. Next thing. Let's go into more of the slide here. I really like the front serrations on this. They are grippy. They're nice. They're not too sharp. So if you're manipulating this with your bare hands, I don't think that you have to, if you're going through drill after drill, or you're sitting there in front of your TV, just kind of getting more familiar with the gun, dry firing with snap caps and such, I don't feel that your hands are going to get kind of like worn out or anything. You could definitely put some time into just getting more familiar with the gun and not, worry about your hands getting all gnarled up, which I definitely like. The rear serrations, again, like those, just like I like the fronts very much. The spring on this slide it was surprisingly light. It's a really light spring. Not as light as like the Shield EZ, but that's always so hard to compare to anything else. I would say that it feels even more positive as far as manipulation goes. It's a much more positive experience because the serrations are so good too. Comparative to say like the Glock 19 or a Glock 26, I feel that this is a lot easier to get a hold of. Definitely versus like a Smith & Wesson M&P, because those basically just have more of those aesthetic little fins in the front. They don't really have any front serrations per se. So I really like this. Finish is great. The optic plate is the same coating and color as the rest of the slide. If you guys have seen my Glock 19 Gen 5 review, the optic plate is actually like a different shade and different finish than the rest of the slide. It's almost like they did it in a separate area or not at the same time. The pigment's a little bit different. I like that this is the same, especially when you're paying, $800 for a gun. I expect just more attention to detail. I like to see where you are getting what you're paying for, especially for folks that are willing to spend that much money. If you're not willing to spend that much money, yeah, well, you get what you pay for. Do expect that there might be some aesthetic things that aren't exactly going to please you as far as that goes. But the coating's great. The fit, the finish, fantastic. The FN logo right there, beautifully etched in. 509, I like that a lot. Looks good. We'll jump into the controls here real quick. And one of the things that I noticed right away was everything is already ambidextrous from the factory. And that is going to be a big plus for you Southpaws. You don't have to switch the magazine release from left to right. It's already on the left and right. The slide lock lever is already there too, and it looks very factory finish. If you've seen like the HK VP9, you'll see that the slide lock release lever, it almost looks like, in a way, it was a bit of an afterthought, like, oh, we need to make this ambidextrous. How can we easily do that without having to do much machining? Well, let's take a little piece, slap it on the side, and put a little, knob on the end of it. It functions fine. It functions just fine, but it's not as refined as this is. So I do really like that. And then, of course, you have your takedown lever, which works just fine. I do like this mag release a lot. And those of you who have medium, maybe smaller size hands may have issues reaching that mag release. And there is no problem reaching that mag release and manipulating it from a firing position. So your hand is in your firing position and you go to drop your thumb down. Sometimes you might not get enough of your thumb on the mag release and be able to manipulate that properly. Now, being that this is a compact, but it's almost like a subcompact frame. I'll tell you this. You do have to get those fingers out of the way, or the bottom of your hand, your palm here, can trap that magazine in. So you do have to slightly move your hand, but as far as the thumb being able to just be here, bam, 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 firing, to dropping down and hitting that mag release, it works very, very well. The rest of it, I'm not a big fan of, but for some folks, this is exactly what they're looking for. They're essentially looking for like a Glock 19 with a shorter frame that isn't going to potentially print as much with the butt of the gun sitting out. With that being said, this is going to be an appropriate fit for that person, and I think that if they go down that route, they might end up falling in love with FN over Glock per se. It is a very familiar feeling going between a Glock and the FN, except for this has a little bit more pronounced palm swell, which I definitely like. And you do have two different sizes of palm swell, so if you want to kind of get that a little bit more narrow, if you have, again, smaller hands, you definitely can. But yeah, like that mag release. It's metal, has nice grippy texture to it. Definitely a big fan. Let's talk about the trigger real quick. So the trigger is a flat face trigger, and when you disengage the safety, it's a very, very slight curve. It's almost flat. The face on the trigger is flat. I really like this trigger compared to, and I'm going to compare it to the Smith & Wesson, because that's probably your most common trigger you're going to find, with the hinge in the center of the trigger to disengage the safety. So when you look at like the CZs, the HKs, the Glocks, and like the Canics, you'll see that the safety is in the center of it. For those of you who tend to just get a very small portion of your finger onto the trigger and you like having that hinge in the center, I think that you're probably going to love the feel of this trigger. Now, the pull of the trigger, it's factory new. It is a little unrefined. Dry firing the trigger, I didn't really care for it. It's not necessarily like smooth. I think that the Glock has a smoother trigger pull. This almost feels like it's a polymer trigger, and it almost feels like there's small little burrs in it. And over time, that's going to smooth out. So a friend of mine, he has a 509, and that was his experience as well. As over time, the trigger got smoother and smoother and smoother. There are definitely aftermarket triggers you can put in these. But before going into that and spending the money on that, I would say, of course, put 500 rounds down range, get some good trigger pulls, get a lot of dry firing in, especially right now with the availability of ammo, as much as you can. And I honestly feel that this trigger, you're going to start liking it more and more and more. You can tell by the groupings here that, you know, the trigger doesn't have I wouldn't say it doesn't have an effect on it necessarily being accurate. I just like triggers that are nice and smooth. It's not a bad trigger for being especially a polymer trigger. The trigger pull weight on this is kind of funny. You go on the FN's website, and I was you know, getting all the specs and stuff, and it says 5.5 to 7.5 pounds. That's pretty broad as far as trigger pull weight. I will tell you this. It is, or at least it feels, heavier than the Glock, than basically anything that this would compare to. This feels like a heavier, more unrefined trigger from the factory. Period. Shooting all the other guns, picking this gun up, going, oh, let me go ahead, check the trigger. Ugh. Yuck. Ugh. Yuck. I'm not, no, not a fan. Again, after shooting my buddies, I'm like, okay, not a bad trigger. All right, I could definitely see that. So, be patient with yourself. You know, get some snap caps, just dry fire, dry fire, dry fire. It's going to kind of smooth out and probably buff itself and polish itself very well. All right, let's go ahead and do some trigger pulls here real quick. So, you're going to disengage at safety. It's very easy to do that. Doesn't matter where your finger's at, being it has a very, very slight curve to that trigger. If you like flat face triggers, you'll like this too. And we have our take up here. Ooh, that kind of just almost gritty take up. And you're going to hit that wall. So the take up isn't a whole lot. You can see it's right there. You're going to hit that wall and then snap. I would say it's like 5.5 pounds until the wall, and that's like 7.5 pounds at the wall. The reset is not bad though. Nice audible reset. It doesn't necessarily spring your finger forward, which I like, but again, brand new trigger. Yeah, you can definitely feel that. It's like, it's pretty, look at me, I'm like Italian. Oh, it's not a nice. It's not a nice trigger. It's al dente. No, yeah, that's probably my least favorite thing about the gun, is the trigger as is from the factory, brand new. But I think, and I know, over time, it's going to smooth itself out. And I think that anybody is definitely going to like that. All right, the rest of the frame, you have your 1913 pick rail. So you have about every accessory you could throw on this thing from there. I wish the trigger guard was a little bit higher. You know, I want to get my hand as high as I can. And I think that could have been brought up. And the width of the trigger guard is, it's really wide. This trigger guard is really wide. I think they could have thinned that out a little bit and then also brought that up. And it would have been nice for those of you who do like to get that grip further up onto the trigger guard here if they did have some serrations. But you can see that they've kind of rounded this piece here, so if you do tend to get your hand way up there like this, I think that kind of works in your favor in that regard, but I would have liked to see some serrations there. Now this grip is interesting to me because this is like 3 different grip designs in one, and I'll show you what I mean. So at the top here, you have a texture that's very similar to the Zev at the top there. And then you go to the back strap and the front, and it's like a CZP-10. And then the middle is like a Glock 19. Very interesting. But it works. It works, and it works great. If you wanted to change out the backstrap there, you have a smaller one. But as far as like what I said, it being similar to like the CZ, this is not as aggressive as the CZ-P10. And if you haven't seen that review and you're curious what I'm talking about, just go into the CZ-P10 and you'll see when I grab the gun and I pull my hand away, it's like imprinted into it. And I know that's actually been an important deciding factor for some people, and they're like, wow, this grip is actually a little bit more aggressive than I'd like. So just want to make sure that you guys have that info right there. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us today on the Concealed Carry channel. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you again so much to our Patreon supporters. We would love for you to be a Patreon supporter. If you go down below and click the link in the comments at the top there to our Patreon page, love for you to help support the channel in any way that you can. And of course, that's going to get you some exclusive content when you decide to go beyond the black shirt as well. I want to say thank you so much to the folks over at Northwest Armory. If you guys need to get a gun shipped to your local FFL, or you happen to go into the store, you can go to nwarmory.com, purchase a gun online, go in the store and do your background check. That'll save you a little bit of time there and ensure that you get the gun. Or have it shipped to your local FFL. If you're in the store, tell them that Grant sent you in, and they're going to take very good care of you, of course, and say hi to Khaki. Make sure to go to X-Hunt Targets and order up some targets after the review. Those folks have been great, and we want to be great to them. So xhunttargets.com, order up some targets. I think you're going to be super happy. Again, please like, subscribe, and share the channel with all your friends, family, and other gun enthusiasts, so that way we can make this a full-time gig for you. All right? We will see you next time on the Concealed Carry channel. Thanks. Okay, coffee, targets, gun.
Have you read your comments?
Yeah, I looked at them a little bit ago. Why?
Maybe you should look at them.
I own one myself. Perfect for me. This guy looks exactly like my lesbian aunt. That's definitely one of the funniest comments I've seen. The different types of optics you chose, or that is going to be, I should say, no, I'm just blabbling on. Blabbling. I can't even say blabbling. Babbling. Blabbling. Oh my God. I've lost it. You're going to have to cut a lot of that kind of out. It's not good. Got my brain going a million miles an hour. Bang, bang.